Well, here's one of those projects where I'm being preemptive instead of reactionary. My home was built in 1978, and the 1978 range is still here with the 1978 heating elements on the top of it. These stovetop heating elements have been unavailable for several years now, so it really gave me one of two choices: replace the range or see if I could replace the heating elements with a more modern design. We do all our baking needs in a countertop oven, and as you can see here, the actual oven in the range is just for storage. So the wife and I talked it over and said, okay, let's see what we can do about improving what we got. First item on the list is to make darn sure the power is off. Well, in this case, it's not. As you can see, the burner light turns on, so back to the breaker box to make sure I got the right breaker. And in this case, the second time's a charm. Definitely got the power off. Now I can begin work. Well, it's time to start investigating to see exactly what I got myself into. And in this case, the old elements kind of pivot up out of the way and they use the support underneath them. As you can see, this support is no good. It's actually got part of it missing on the end of it, so the burner doesn't sit quite right. And these old designs use a separate bowl and a separate trim ring. In some cases you can still get these, but they're available at exorbitant prices, so I decided not to replace these, and the wife has been using foil to cover these up, which works quite well. You just replace the foil if you spill something on it. Now these old elements just pivot out of the way, and they're held in place with two screws on a mounting bracket. In most cases they came right out, but it definitely never hurts to use a little WD-40 on them and let them soak for a little while before you try to remove them. The heating elements themselves have a spade type connector, and then the wiring has a clip type connector. It's easy to get the clip connectors off of the elements with a small screwdriver. You just pry them off. Now you're going to need every bit of wire you can get when you start putting the new terminals in place, so make sure you don't cut your little lugs very short. Now when it comes to buying new hardware, I've always been basically a fan of the old saying, you get what you pay for. In this case, this ceramic kit should far outlast any Bakelite kit you might get a hold of, in spite of the fact that Bakelite kits are probably about a third the cost. You'll note here that the kit also comes with two brackets. The fact I was definitely going to have to take advantage of, since I'm going to have to do some prototyping to make sure these elements will fit right. So I took the 9-degree bracket, bent the 90 out flat, and then started trimming it back so I could slide it back and forth to get the correct spot for the heating element to mount. Now here's the part that took an awful lot of trial and error. Basically I'm dealing with not only the in and out, but the up and down. As it turned out, the up and down wasn't a factor. I could mount it directly to the bottom of the stove itself, so it was just a matter of how far out or how far in I need to mount the bracket. Now if you're wondering why I picked the 8-inch element to do first, well, here's one reason. The holes are offset. Since I'm only using one bolt, I can choose either one of two positions and have a 1/16 of an inch to play with, just in case I make a slight error. In the case of the 6-inch element, the holes are the exact same dimension. And now it's time to use the second bracket to make my permanent mounting arrangement. In this case, this bracket should pretty well work as is. I'm only going to use one hole, which means I've got to drill one hole to the precise location, which is what I'm marking off here. Then I'll tap that hole for the exact size screw that I'm going to be using to mount with. That way the screw doesn't fall out when I go to mount it. In this case, everything was 832, and as you can see here, it mounted up pretty nicely, looking real similar to the other bracket. The only thing I had to work on was the burner was a little bit close to the trim ring. These new heating elements are designed to kind of lock in place, so they're a little bit off, so I had to grind about a 1/16 of an inch off of the very toe of the element opposite where it would mount. Now I'm a little worried about stovetop elements. The elements I used are for a Frigidaire range, just a more recent addition, and they're the plug-in variety to be compatible with these new terminals. If you embark on a project like this, it's probably always best to use the parts for a newer model of the one that you have if you can't get the old original parts. On to the subject of bowls and trim rings. A limited selection of old style bowls and trim rings are available, but I couldn't get them a full set. I actually went to Appliance Parts Pros and ordered a new set of the one-piece bowls that are out there, and in spite of what the website seemingly told me, as far as the photo, they came back as being too small. So I have been unable to find a bowl set for a new style range that will fit these. The holes in my range countertop are just too large for the new style trim ring and bowl combinations that are out there now. And as you can see here, I had to do a considerable amount of grinding on the old bowls to make sure that they would clear the new heating elements. And now for the final part of the project is to do the wiring, actually connect up the old wiring to the new terminal block. In this case, I don't have a heat gun, but I think a soldering iron will work just as well, as you'll see here. It just takes a little longer than a heat gun would, but it gives you the same results. And with that, one stovetop heating element upgrade is complete, and I've still got 3 to go, but as you can see here in the photo, everything is finished and working well. Definitely worthwhile to do this. I just wish I could replace the bowls, but if someone knows out there where I can find a set that will fit something like this, I'd sure like to hear from you. They've got to be about a ½ inch bigger than the ones you're going to get off the internet. They need to be almost 10 and 8 inch diameter to be able to replace the existing trim rings and bowl arrangements that's there and still fit the holes where it covers everything up. So, thanks for watching. Hope you found this both interesting and useful. If you did, definitely consider giving me a like, and for sure, consider subscribing. Now, I've got a whole lot of other interesting projects on the way I think you're going to want to take a look at. So, until our paths cross again, I'll catch you on the next video. Y'all take care now, and this is Engineer on the Side. We be gone. Take care, y'all.